This is a visual journal about eating habits under a stressy month. During this time, I was working with a very demanding project that required flexibility and availability. As part of my project on food, culture, materiality, and design, I tracked my habits to make space to observations, reflections, and conversations about how we relate to food when stressed. Personal celebrations came also during this period of time. Making space for them felt both important and demanding, but the meditative and celebratory aspects of cooking and sharing food were good to cope with the stress. While I wasn't able to share my journal online as much as I wanted, the posts I could share got attention and created important conversations. Friends would relate to the stories and share strategies and experiences. I realized that I would more easily skip a meal if I didn't feel observed or judged by others. I also realized that the best meals I took were in company of others. As days went by, in the practice of documenting my food, I became my own observer and company, and paid attention to things like the colors of the ingredients and the presentation of the food, even when eating alone. I also understood that eating well doesn't necessarily mean eating in a fancy restaurant or a very elaborated meal. I became aware as well of how my body would accept or reject certain foods, which foods I considered easy to prepare, and which ones had an emotionally component that satiated not only the physiological hunger but the affective one. The project ended right before the celebration of Dia de Muertos, which is a festivity I grew up with in Mexico. I called this moment a sanctuary where I could release the stress, forget about hurries and screens, and devote myself to cook, sing, and dance, set up an altar for my beloved ones that have passed away, and stay with emotions and reflections of life and death, symbolized in the many food ingredients of the altar. By making this ritual, I closed a circle of reflections on time, rush, calm, body, life, and death, all around food. The next step of this process is to brainstorm into ways of exploring these openings with food as material of social and emotional connection.